Am I wrong for telling my sister to shut up and stop giving me parenting advice when she's clueless about autism and kids? I lost my patience after she tried to lecture me, even though she has no experience in raising children with special needs. My sister, 35F, is single and childless currently, though she plans to have a child via donor at 40. I, 31F, am a mom of 3 and my middle child, Ava, is on the spectrum. Ava has sensory difficulties surrounding clothes and food. She was always considered a fussy baby. Early signs were there from when she was still a newborn and hated most of her clothes. She was also a child who did not take to eating solids, and she would struggle when being around too many people or meeting pew. So we were told she was showing early signs of autism, and she was eventually diagnosed. She's in a few different therapies at present, and some of that is to help her with her sensory struggles. So my sister is so judgmental about Ava and how my husband and I parent her. She accuses us of coddling Ava, of making her spoiled. She gets pissed when we won't make Ava wear something she bought for Ava that we already asked her not to, or when Ava gets different food from the rest of us, including her brothers. She has told us we need to sit Ava down and tell her she needs to eat better, and she won't be getting different food from everyone. I told her that would be cruel, and she said she'd learn to eat that way. So I reminded her of the times Ava has been on many supplements and needed medical attention because of how little she eats, and that I refuse to make her go backward. I also told her she knows what fabrics and types of clothes Ava can't handle wearing. I mostly avoid my sister, but sometimes it's unavoidable. At my niece's birthday prestibate, my sister was telling my husband that we shouldn't let Ava eat anything, eat the party because it was all junk and she eats trash already.
Next story. What am I wrong for making my neighbors think I'm in a cult? I didn't intend to scare them, but my daily routine and unusual hobbies seem to have them concerned about my beliefs. I, 24M, am a huge fan of board games, particularly Dungeons & Dragons. I host weekly DD sessions at my apartment with a group of friends, and it's been our tradition for the last 5 years. We get into it, we dress up, light candles, chant dramatic incantations, we play some ambient music. I know it's more than the regular player, but we like it and find it funny. Recently, my neighbors, an older couple in their 60s, moved in next door. They're nice enough, but pretty old school. Anyway, they've been giving me these weird looks lately and avoiding me in the hallway, which I thought was odd. But I figured maybe they just weren't into socializing. Well, last Saturday, during one of our sessions, we got really into it. My friend Dave, 23M, was doing an epic monologue as the evil sorcerer we were about to defeat, and I may have been waving around a fake sword while wearing a hooded cloak. I was cosplaying my Rouge character. We were deep in the moment when I heard a knock on the door. I opened it, still in costume, and was greeted by my very concerned-looking neighbors. Before I could say anything, the wife blurted out, "We've seen the people coming and going, the chanting, the cloaks, the swords. We just want to make sure everything is okay." I was caught off guard, and without thinking, I blurted out, "Oh, we're just summoning demons, nothing to worry about." And then I laughed because obviously I was joking. They did not laugh. In fact, they looked even more horrified. They just mumbled something about being good Christians and backed away slowly. Fast forward to the next morning, and I find a pamphlet slipped under my door for a cult deprogramming service. They even included a handwritten note offering to introduce me to their pastor to save my soul. Now, my friends think this is hilarious and keep suggesting we lean into it, like start wearing robes to take out the trash or chant in the hallways. I'm honestly tempted to mess with them a bit, but I'm also kind of worried I've legitimately freaked them out. ATA for accidentally making my neighbors think I'm a cult leader, and should I clear things up or just let them believe it? Next story.
Ex-husband's family begged Maine to keep their secrets after his death, but I decided to expose the truth. Now they're accusing Maine of betrayal and causing a rift in the family. I, 40F, and my ex-husband, Chris, 45M, were married for 13 years and divorced in October of last year. On July 22nd, he sadly passed away unexpectedly, and his family is acting like he never existed. So I decided to wait until after his memorial picnic to post about this. Today is September 1st, and there was no memorial at this picnic at all, so I knew I had to say something about it. Below is what I posted. Monday, July 22nd, 2024, 6:18 p.m. I got the call that Chris had passed away and I needed to come pick up our dog. Chris and I had met and started dating when I was 14 years old, and although that initial relationship obviously didn't last, we reconnected as adults and eventually got married and raised our children, his stepchild, together for 14 years, from the ages of 6 years old and newborn. When his father passed away in March 2016, he broke in a way I couldn't imagine. Our marriage struggled, and we ultimately divorced in October 2023. Despite the dissolution of our marriage, our love was still there, and we continued to be there for each other whenever the other needed. He was truly my rock. When I got to his mother's house where he had been living, I was told the most awful story of what had happened that day. From what his mother says, she went up to his room around 11 a.m. to see if he was awake, and she found him laying on the floor moaning. Instead of rendering aid, she told him to get off the floor and go to bed. She left him that way on the floor, in distress. At 3 p.m., she came back to his room to check on him, and he was still on the floor, moaning. Again, she rendered no aid and told him to get off the floor. She left him again. When she came back to his room at 6 to see if he wanted dinner, he was cold. She admits she didn't attempt CPR because she knew he was already gone and her first call wasn't to 911, but Chris's sister. Not even 24 hours after he passed, the family had his bedroom and all his belongings cleaned out of the house, like he never existed. There's more personal things that I have learned in the last few days that just make my anger towards his family greater, but I really do hate these people, especially his mother, for what happened. You'll never be able to convince me that had his mom called 911 at 11 a.m., he might have had a chance and still be here with us. I feel alone in my grief and like I'm not entitled to feel this way because we were divorced. His family is shutting me and my children out like we didn't exist, and there's nothing I can do about any of it. Plans are being made and possessions given away without any consideration to me and my children. I just feel like Chris wouldn't have been okay with any of this, but his family doesn't seem to care. It's whatever is cheapest and easiest for them.
Next story. Torn between telling the truth and protecting my dad's marriage, I'm struggling with whether to reveal why I won't join their family vacation. But if I do, it could shatter his new relationship and cause unforgivable damage. I am a 17-year-old male. When I was around 9, my dad, 39M, started seeing a friend of my mom's, cheated on my mom. They married, and they now have 3 kids together. My dad asked for custody, and he was granted to have me on weekends. He seemed happy to have me, and always tried to include me in everything, but it was kind of weird and frustrating. He even tried to make me call his wife mom and went for full custody several times. Since being with his wife and making me accept his new family was more important than spending actual time with me alone, I stopped going to his house. When I was 14, he tried to fight for full custody after my mom started dating my stepdad, a nice guy. But I told him to stop. The other reason why I stopped going, I never told my dad this one, is because his wife was so hostile towards me. My dad used to pay attention to me when I was there, so I think she didn't like it that way, and one day told me behind my dad's back that I was an obstacle to my dad's happiness, that I should just stay with my mom full time. Their anniversary was 5 days ago. I didn't want to go, but he called my mom to threaten that if I didn't go, he'd go to court. He took his 4 kids, including me, his wife, his parents, and his parents-in-law to celebrate at a nice restaurant. Once there, he said that he had 6 tickets for vacations. I didn't say anything, but then he looked at me and said, "1 is for you." I said thanks. "But I'm not going." He seemed angry and said, "Okay, I had enough. Why don't you want to go just because?" I said, but then he asked the same questions 5 more times, so the 6th time I said, "Because I hate your wife." Then he started asking why over and over again, so I ended up telling him the mean things she said to me. He was seemingly uncomfortable but told us to finish our meal. No one talked for the rest of the night, and after we finished I asked my stepdad to pick me up. I haven't spoken to my dad since. He just sent me a message asking if I changed my mind about the trip, but I said no. My cousin told me that my dad is staying at my grandparents' now. His wife texted me yesterday calling me a brat and asking if I was happy for potentially destroying my half-sibling's home life, but I just ignored her. My cousin says that the kids are hurt and crying because my dad isn't at home, and she says that I should just have said other things or agree, and then tell him later that I wasn't going.